The ancient hermetic wisdom captured in the words of the Emerald Tablet, as above, so below, as inside, so outside, invites us to go beyond our usual perceptions and see the unity of microcosm and macrocosm. They are not just separate entities, but facets of one universal reality, where the mind that creates the stars is identical to the mind that forms the atoms within us. What lies ahead is a fascinating exploration of the depths of this universal law. It's intertwining with modern scientific discoveries and the centuries-old wisdom of Sufis and philosophers. The key question is how this principle can transform our lives with wholeness and awareness. This law, known as the principle of correspondence, states that reality in all its manifestations is organized fractally. This hermetic principle emphasizes the interconnectedness of everything in the universe, where each part reflects the whole. As an example, the cells of our body, each of which carries the genetic code that forms the entire organism, and in a sense, is a miniature reflection of it. Just as galaxies dance in cosmic space, obeying invisible laws of gravitation, so subatomic particles, like miniature twins, obey the same fundamental principles, demonstrating the universality of the laws of the universe, both on the scale of the universe and in the microcosm of the atom. The law of correspondence, like an ancient prophecy, calls us to look at the universe as a huge mirror reflecting our own souls. To comprehend the mysteries of the universe, we must first look inside ourselves, because the macrocosm influences the microcosm, and our inner state shapes the world around us, giving us the key to transformation. By changing our inner world, we transform the outer world as well, creating harmony between the inner and outer. From a spiritual perspective, the principle of as above, so below reveals a deeper understanding of the unity of all things, reminding us of the interconnectedness of all things. Jesus Christ, like a wise seer, said, "The kingdom of God is within you," Luke 17:21, emphasizing that within each person lies the potential for the divine. The human mind becomes both observer and creator of the universe, capable of knowing and changing the world around it. Just as the cosmic whole finds its expression in every atom, so the human being is a reflection of the wholeness of the universe, a microcosm containing all the possibilities of the macrocosm. Hermetic philosophy, centered around the figure of Jesus, proclaims that each individual is a microcosm, a smaller version of the universe. This microcosm has the capacity to expand to encompass the macrocosm, that is, the larger universe, and to achieve complete harmony with it. This statement emphasizes the tremendous power and responsibility that is placed upon the individual to care for his or her inner world, including the mind, thoughts, and emotional state. By caring for one's inner self, one thereby contributes to the well-being of all that lies beyond. The philosopher Plotinus, developing this idea, argued that deepened self-knowledge leads to a fuller understanding of the universe and even those realms that lie beyond it. This idea is reflected in the Hermetic principle, which states that in order to comprehend the universe, one must first discover the universe contained within oneself. Spiritual teachings emphasize that the inner state of man, his thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, play the role of a kind of lens through which he perceives the world around him. If peace reigns in the soul, then the world around is seen in harmony. However, if a person is in a state of inner conflict, the surrounding reality appears hostile and devoid of harmony. This understanding allows us to realize the illusory nature of the boundaries that people tend to draw between themselves and others, or between man and the cosmos. In reality, each individual is an integral part of a greater whole, and the inner processes of the human being are in continuous interaction with the external world. By transforming one's inner world, one inevitably changes one's interaction with the outer world as well. In the Sufi tradition, a deep understanding of the relationship between up and down means recognizing that all the elements that make up the universe are also reflected within each of us. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, whose studies of symbolism have had a profound influence on modern thought, argued that a person's personal unconscious is a mirror image of the collective unconscious, a vast repository of images, ideas, and archetypes that shape our perception of life. Just as the universe is in constant motion and transformation, each person's inner universe is also dynamic and full of life. By exploring this inner cosmos, an individual not only discovers new facets of their personality, but also connects with the archetypal forces and universal truths that are an integral part of the entire universe. In this way, the spiritual journey becomes a kind of return to the cosmic center within us. The principle of as above, so below emphasizes not only the correspondence between macrocosm and microcosm, but also suggests a harmonious fusion of spirit and matter, being and action, inner and outer. This means that a true understanding of self and the world is possible only through the integration of all aspects of human existence. The contributions of Paracelsus, the eminent alchemist and philosopher, emphasize that self-knowledge serves as the starting point for comprehending the universe. The true goal of alchemists is to achieve harmony with the absolute through self-knowledge. By transforming inner conflicts, such as fears and doubts, into virtues like wisdom and self-control, one comes into alignment with the cosmic energy of the universe. This process, known as alchemy, symbolizes the harmonization of spiritual and material principles, reflecting the unity of the microcosm and macrocosm. The hermetic principle of correspondence asserts the interconnectedness between the different levels of reality, implying that every phenomenon on one level has analogs on other levels. This concept reveals the universe as a multi-layered system where each layer reflects the others. In the context of the duality of spirit and matter, the second law of Hermeticism states that the seeming opposites between them are merely reflections of a single fundamental reality. Thus, the alchemy of self-knowledge becomes the key to understanding not only ourselves, but also the universe in which we live. The world we perceive in material form is an echo of forces, concepts, and patterns originating in the spiritual realm, where matter acts as a projection or manifestation of subtle spiritual regulations and energy flows. In accordance with the principle of correspondence, the spiritual origin serves as the root cause, the starting point where all designs and energetic impulses originate. The material world, in its turn, is a reflection of this genesis, taking shape under the influence of spiritual laws and invisible matrices. As a visual analogy, we can imagine spirit as an inexhaustible spring and matter as an image projected by this source. The existence of matter is conditioned by the presence and dynamics of this fundamental spiritual energy. Thus, the visible world is shaped by invisible forces emanating from the spiritual plane, just as a sculpture is born from the sculptor's conception. Consequently, any metamorphosis or transformation we seek to embody in material reality must begin at the spiritual level, whether through the power of intention, visualization, or intellectual reflection. An example is nature itself, where DNA, a structure invisible to the simple eye, contains all the information necessary to create a complex physical organism. The relationship between deoxyribonucleic acid and the human body shell is a vivid manifestation of the harmony between the spiritual essence as a generator of information and energy and the material world as an embodiment of this primary basis. By harmonizing our thoughts and aspirations with universal spiritual laws, we acquire the ability to influence matter, giving it form in accordance with our will. However, it is not a matter of seeking total control or manipulation of physical reality, but rather a process of achieving deep inner harmony. When it is realized that matter is merely a condensed manifestation of spirit, it becomes clear that the most profound transformations occur when we direct our efforts directly to the spiritual level, that is, to the level of our intentions, thoughts, and beliefs. As an example, we can take a situation where a person seeks prosperity. In this case, he must realize that true abundance originates in the spiritual realm, in a mind that cultivates beliefs of self-worth, unwavering self-confidence, and deep gratitude. By cultivating these spiritual and mental attitudes, one inevitably observes their reflection in the material world, even if these changes occur gradually and imperceptibly. Life appears as a continuous and graceful dance between spirit and matter, where the main goal is not to reject one in favor of the other, but to recognize their interrelationship and strive for their harmonious harmonization. True alchemy, therefore, is a harmonious union of the spiritual realm with the realities of the material world, a profound realization that every element of our physical existence bears a spiritual imprint, and that every spiritual experience is reflected in matter. This means that the quest for meaning and purpose, traditionally associated with spiritual development, must be concretely embodied in our daily deeds and actions. When we enrich our inner world through self-discovery practices such as meditative exercises and deep introspection, we simultaneously lay a stronger foundation for a rich, whole, and meaningful life on the material plane. Ultimately, The principle of correspondence serves as a reminder that the division between the spiritual and the material is a seeming duality generated by the limitations of our perception. At their core, both are manifestations of the one universal truth. Like a ray of light passing through a prism and splitting into a spectrum of colors, spirit manifests in the material world without ever losing its original essence. This understanding gives a profound sense of spiritual freedom when we realize that in living a fulfilling life in the material world and appreciating physical existence, we are both expressing and affirming spirit. Hence, the true goal of the spiritual quest is not to escape from the material world, but to deeply comprehend and transcend it, to realize it as a projection of the ever-moving spirit. The hermetic principle, as already noted, is not just an abstract philosophical idea or an esoteric doctrine accessible only to a select few. It finds its clear and unambiguous reflection in the phenomena of the world around us. Observing nature, we find that the same structures and patterns manifested on a microscopic scale are also reproduced in much grander dimensions. This correspondence between microcosm and macrocosm is not accidental or purely symbolic. It is embedded in the very foundations of the universe, in the fundamental models governing matter and energy. One of the most striking examples of the realization of the principle, what is above is below in nature, is the phenomenon of fractals. Fractals are structures that have the property of self-similarity, i.e., they repeat themselves at different scales. They are observed both in the smallest objects and in colossal structures, demonstrating the universality of the principle of similarity. Natural geometry provides convincing evidence that the same patterns that shape the universe in its vastness are also present in the smallest details of the world around us. Consider the remarkable similarities between the spiral of a nautilus shell and the majestic arms of a spiral galaxy. The same Fibonacci sequence that governs the arrangement of petals in a flower is also reflected in galactic structures. In this repetition of patterns, the profound principle of what is above is below, demonstrating that nature is subject to universal order. This mathematical organization, known as sacred geometry, is a universal language that permeates all levels of the universe. It determines the movement of subatomic particles, the rhythm of plant growth, and the formation of stellar systems. Nature exists in harmony with recurring cycles reflected in the microcosm of living organisms and on the scale of vast ecosystems. The cycle of life, including birth, growth, withering, and rebirth, is one of the most striking examples of this universal pattern. Like the change of seasons, each living organism lives its own version of this cycle. In the human body, for example, the circulatory system is a microcosmic reflection of the Earth's hydrological system, demonstrating the interconnectedness of all things. Just as rivers carry their waters to the vast expanse of the oceans, the blood circulates tirelessly to the heart and then to all corners of the human body, nourishing and revitalizing every cell, every organ. Both rivers and blood obey the single law of flow and return, clearly demonstrating that the macrocosm, the vast earth, and the microcosm, the complex human being, are organized according to the same fundamental plan. This marvelous harmony between microcosm and macrocosm is manifested everywhere, in the alternation of sleep and wakefulness, in the rhythmic work of cells, in the rotation of planets around their stars. All this testifies to the fact that the principle of correspondence is a fundamental symbol that permeates all the processes of life. Another vivid example of this universal analogy can be seen in the structure of atoms and solar systems. The nucleus of the atom, surrounded by rotating electrons, bears a striking resemblance to the Sun, at the center of the planetary system around which the planets revolve. This striking similarity has led scientists and mystics to believe that the fundamental structure of the universe may be recursive and holographic. That is, the same pattern repeats itself on scales ranging from subatomic particles to the cosmic expanse. The presented analogy reveals to us a picture of the universe where strict order reigns, and the microcosm serves as a mirror image of the macrocosm. Pythagoras, an outstanding philosopher and mathematician of antiquity, asserted that number is the fundamental principle of all things. This suggests that reality is based on mathematical and geometric laws that apply to both the vast expanse of galaxies and the smallest particles of matter. In the field of consciousness studies, scientists such as David Bohm, a physicist and associate of Albert Einstein himself, have put forward the concept of colomotion. Bohm suggested that reality is not made up of separate, independent elements, but is something whole and indivisible. In this model, the individual parts are not isolated from each other, but rather are reflections of a larger, overarching reality, like a hologram. In other words, each fragment of the universe contains information about the whole, which confirms the idea of interconnection of different levels of reality and their mutual influence. Benoit Mandelbrot, a mathematician who lived in the last century and discovered fractals, demonstrated that such structures are an inherent characteristic of many diverse systems. Looking at the universe through the prism of fractals, one can see that each tiny part of the universe is a reduced copy of the whole, which once again emphasizes the idea of unity and interconnection of all elements of the universe. As already mentioned, the concept of what's below is above ceases to be an abstract philosophical idea, becoming a regularity manifested in the nature around us. The principle of congruence demonstrates that the external world, including our achievements, health, and appearance, is a direct reflection of our internal world, our beliefs, aspirations, and, most importantly, our daily actions. Each, even small, repetitive action becomes an expression of our way of thinking and, as it accumulates, forms a tangible and visible reality. Just as a stone thrown into water creates circles that spread across the surface, our habits and ways of thinking shape our physical state and life path. In other words, our physical, emotional, and even financial well-being is the result of what we continually nurture within ourselves. Every aspect of our lives is a reflection of our beliefs, desires, and daily practices. A disciplined mind creates a fertile ground for the formation of healthy and sustainable habits. A conscious individual whose thoughts are characterized by orderliness and clarity of purpose demonstrates harmony of inner peace through physical fitness. The discipline of the mind translates into consistent action, whether it be a balanced diet, regular exercise, or wellness routines to maintain and strengthen the body. In the end, the body becomes a reflection of the ordered mind, radiating health, strength, and harmony. In contrast, a mind subject to chaos and distractions often becomes a source of destructive habits. Such a mindset inevitably leaves its imprint on the body, manifesting as various disorders, excess weight, constant fatigue, and deteriorating health. Lack of inner self-discipline pushes us to seek instant gratification, unhealthy food, excessive sedentary time, and insufficient sleep. And while these actions bring short-term gratification, they lead to physical and emotional exhaustion in the long run. An example is a person who systematically postpones important tasks, neglects exercise, and does not care about the quality of the food they eat. The appearance of such a person screams of the chaos that reigns in his thoughts. Excess weight and endless fatigue are visible signs of the lack of order and discipline in his inner world. The great thinker of antiquity, Aristotle, once observed that our repetitive actions form our essence. In other words, perfection is not a fleeting act, but a steady habit. Every, even the smallest act we perform day in and day out has a tremendous impact on our lives. A person who devotes just a few minutes a day to self-care, self-education, or exercise is like a gardener sowing seeds that will eventually produce a rich harvest. Small but regular acts of care and discipline, accumulating, lead to significant achievements and give meaning to life. It may seem from the outside that dramatic changes in appearance or thinking are the result of some drastic measures, but in reality, they are just the reflection of many small but purposeful actions taken systematically. Deep transformation begins with the realization that our successes and failures are, in fact, the fruits of the daily choices we make. At first glance, a habit as basic as increasing your daily water intake may seem like an insignificant detail. However, if you stick with it for a few months, you can see significant changes in your skin, energy levels, and overall health. This is the essence of the correspondence principle. Small actions that originate in the microcosm of our minds are gradually reflected in our daily lives, and then lead to profound transformations in the macrocosm of our existence. To achieve significant results in the external world, whether in physical health or interpersonal relationships, one must begin with internal change, with a transformation of one's thinking and spiritual state. This is where the power of the principle of alignment lies. By adjusting our thought processes and reinforcing our beliefs of discipline, self-care, and self-love, we gradually form daily habits that reflect these inner changes. And over time, the reality around us begins to adapt to this new internal configuration. People who have a clear sense of their purpose and direction in life, those who are clear about what they want to create and what heights to achieve, develop habits that support them along the way. A strong body, clear mind, and an orderly life are a reflection of a strong spirit that has found meaning in its existence and expresses it through every, even the smallest, action. As we come to understand the principle of correspondence, it becomes apparent that this age-old wisdom extends far beyond abstract reasoning, serving as a sure guide to achieving harmony, sincerity, and purpose in life. Incorporating this principle into daily activities can lead to a harmonization of the inner world with the outer environment, which in turn promotes mental clarity, emotional stability, and overall well-being. Just as the universe strives for cyclicality and harmony, humanity must strive to achieve inner balance. The universe appears as a pulsating melody, where each person is a unique note contributing to the overall harmony. The inner state of a person is reflected in the outer world. Thoughts, beliefs, and habits form the invisible threads that weave the fabric of the surrounding reality. The principle of conformity reminds us that everyone is the creator of his or her own destiny. Consciousness is like clay, and actions are like a sculptor's chisel. Life, like a mirror, reflects the starry sky and the waters of a calm lake, accurately reproducing what comes from the depths of the soul. In the pursuit of harmony in the world around us, it is necessary to nurture a state of peace of mind. To gain inner strength requires constant work on yourself and discipline. If the goal is love, then you should let this feeling blossom in the depths of the soul, like a pure and eternal fire. It is important to remember that the inner world of a person is reflected in the outer world. There is an inextricable link between what happens inside us and what surrounds us. Let every choice a person makes become a kind of silent but conscious prayer, echoing in the infinity and embodying the highest manifestation of his essence.